Oh, she's good.
Okay. So, oh, Jenny, when bringing your husband, he has to sign one of those things too.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Because okay, that's good.
I just called. I called the office. Why?
Thank you. No, because Dr. Smith always he keeps saying no, and I'm like I don't want to disrespect him.
I just called the office and got it from the chair.
You did okay. Cool.
And if he's going to lie to me, he's going to lie to me. You know, what can I do? Okay.
Ready.
Okay. So, I think we left off on this classical conditioning, and part of the exam is that you are to try to classically condition a student here. Okay? So I want you to bring a student, and I want you to show that how you classically condition them. Okay? Yeah.
Bring someone like class?
Yeah, I want you to start work. It'll be for the final. I want you to bring someone that you classically condition to, bark like a dog when they hear something or something like that. Okay?
But then they're just gonna do
That's
it.
for the final.
What?
You're just gonna do it. Bullshitting. Do it. When
No. You're going to have something where there's another cue that we've tied it to, and then they'll start doing it, and not necessarily barking like a dog.
Are you bullshitting us?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so this is kind of where we left off. An unconditioned stimulus, an unconditioned response. Oh yeah, onion bad breath. Conditioned stimulus, unconditioned stimulus, and then finally, and that of course leads to another unconditioned stimulus, and then finally a CS and a CR, so you start having sex with bad breath. Okay, that's important. Make sure your significant other also has bad breath, or it'll be an unpleasant. Well, they probably run away. So there's also on a matter of extinction. So a diminishing condition response in classical conditioning when a UCS does not follow a CS. In operant conditioning, when the response no longer is kind of reinforced. So this gives you a better idea. So this is the acquisition of the UCS and the CS. The extinction alone of the CS. That's condition response. It'd be a bummer if it kind of screwed up and you lost the UCS but not the CS. Yeah, okay. I guess it doesn't happen. And then spontaneous recovery of the CR. The CS extinction alone. So let me think here. I guess that's right. If they hear the stimulus, so there's probably going to be a certain point where the extinction happens, and that's it. And then I guess here, right up here still, there's a recovery of the CR. It's only down here that you've lost it pretty much forever. Not necessarily forever, but harder to get back. So the spontaneous recovery after a rest period, and then tendency for stimuli similar to the CS to elicit similar responses. Oh yeah. In conditioning, the learned ability to distinguish between a CS and other stimuli that do not signal. So, when we get into it a little bit later, looking at neurons and what's going on in terms of responding neurologically, A lot of, well, you have to respond correctly to the proper stimuli. And it's a matter of oftentimes life and death or procreating or whatever. And we'll see how complex it actually is, so that there's real discrimination in things where they don't go off half-cocked on some other mission. So the same thing here, the condition response, they can't respond to that or to another stimuli and get the CR. They have to learn to discriminate, and they normally do. Okay. 256 tone, salivation. 392 tone, no salivation. So, tendency to respond to similar stimuli to the CS is called a generalization. So Pavlov conditioned the dog's salivation by using miniature vibrations on the thigh. When he subsequently stimulated other parts of the dog's body, salivation stopped. Okay. And then nausea conditioning in cancer patients. So nausea is a big deal with a lot of the cancer drugs they give you. Basically, they're feeding you poison, and it's a matter of, knocking out the cancer cells before you. But there's a lot of nausea, so they tend to perhaps put patients through, let's see. Yeah, okay. So the UCR is nausea. Waiting room, you have the drug. Nausea, I guess what they mean here is the absence of nausea that's happening. So the waiting room is the stimulus, conditioned stimulus. The drug is an unconditioned stimulus. And once they get into the waiting room, their nausea disappears, hopefully.
It disappears or they get nauseous?
No, I think this is wrong. I think this is they get nauseous.
Right.
I think
then-
this they lose nauseousness. That's what I'm assuming.
I'm taking it as like they're in the waiting room and automatically that response comes where they feel nauseous.
Oh, that's
what
true.
I'm-
Okay, I thought maybe they were applying it. You're right. So, yeah, that's probably, you're right. Thanks.
I'm always right.
Extra. In other words, so they should never really put them in a waiting room. No, maybe they have to. But I think you could probably classically condition them not to have nausea, too. Maybe. Of course, they could always smoke marijuana. Let's see. Oh, let's see this. This is that loud noise. Okay, the UCS, loud noise, fear. The CS is a rat. The UCS, a loud noise, and the baby sees the rat and starts to cry. God, you can do all sorts of things to babies, can't you? Do you have any kids?
Yeah.
Yeah, what have you done to them?
What have I done to them?
Yeah,
Well, I take away candies, everything that they live for.
yeah. Have you done any, harsh manipulation?
For me, harsh for me or harsh for them?
Well, yeah, for them. I mean, a psychological manipulation where you scar them.
No.
No, okay. I don't know. There's a running back in the National Football League. I guess his father whooped him as he was growing up for discipline, even though, Anyway, and now he's done it to his kid, and he's all in trouble for whooping his kid with, a switch and things like that. And I just thought, he would be better off if he had done that, well, not with a switch, but he could have conditioned them to feel the same sort of thing with the switch and just a blink of his eye, right? So, you know, a look. So the first thing is a switch, fear. Then the conditioned response is a blink of the eye and fear. And he would have gotten in trouble, even though the fear might have been just as intense. All right? Unfortunately, now he's in trouble. Not that the NFL wanted that. They just felt like they had to now. Anyway, okay. So, in terms of Pavlov's understanding, this guy Watson, they considered consciousness or the mind unfit for scientific study of psychology. However, they actually underestimated the importance of cognitive processes and biological constraints. So obviously they didn't, this was the beginning, kind of doing psychological experiments, and you know, they were learning stuff, but obviously they weren't necessarily understanding what the whole scheme is, and of course psychology still doesn't. But now they're at least getting some kind of hard science with it. So, early behaviorists believed that learned behaviors of various animals could be reduced to mindless mechanisms. In other words, there's no thought process there, it just happens. There's a stimulus, there's some black box, there's a response. But, of course, later behaviorists suggested the animals, they learn the predictability of stimulus, meaning they learn expectancy or awareness of stimulus. So they're not just automatons, where they get a stimulus and they do it. Now, of course, if we think back to the ecologists and the behavioral ecologists about fixed action patterns and things like that, that probably in this, these guys and them also probably believed the same thing, like with fixed action patterns. Well, it usually does that. I don't know if you can interrupt those. So, no, I think you can't. So, anyway. But they figured in terms of learning and expectancy or awareness of the stimulus, meaning that they can learn other things that kind of come along with it. So, they did inductive reasoning and believed that the laws of learning were similar for all animals. Therefore, a pigeon and a person do not differ in their learning ability. I don't know. Me and a sea anemone? I don't know. I don't feel a real affinity for a sea anemone. I can't get into the mind of one. I guess it doesn't have a mind. That's probably the reason why. But perhaps certain things. But the thing is, pigeons have an ability that it doesn't look like we have. And that's using, there's some magnetite that they use to navigate. And the Earth has, of course, a electromagnetic field around it. If it didn't, wouldn't be here. And the pigeons and other animals actually use that to navigate from one place to another. So, pigeons don't necessarily have, or we don't have necessarily the same laws of learning because we really can't do that. However, I must say recently, I read where it looks like there's magnetite with a lot of mammals too, including humans. But I've never, I mean, it's an unconscious process, I'm sure, but no one's ever demonstrated that ability with humans. There's certainly some humans with great map sense, but as far as navigating like that, I don't really see it. And then, of course, finally, later behavior suggests that learning is constrained by an animal's biology, right? So, think about bats and echolocating. Well, no, that's actually not true. It's really kind of interesting. So, people are blind, and they usually get a mental map of areas they're familiar with, and they might use a seeing eye dog or a cane or whatever. Well, there's this kid, and he went blind. Not all at once, I mean slowly. And he was very active. He surfed, skateboarded, rode his bike, all sorts of different things, and obviously he didn't want to lose that. But he noticed that he could actually get a mental map of the area around him because of what he was actually hearing. So if he, let's say, walked up to this, he'd realize, oh, there's something here. Now, it's not like visualizing. It's more like echolocation is the same. It's not like they're visualizing, but they can actually kind of give you a spatial sense of where they are. And this guy, he's grown up now, and he rides his bike on city streets, all sorts of different things. It's really quite amazing. And he's also actually teaching other blind people the same sort of skill. So we don't have echolocation abilities like a bat does, or let's say in dolphins do, or anything like that. But we have a little bit, and it turns out that humans perhaps can actually use that little limited ability to actually get around. So he's teaching people. I'm surprised actually it's not more widely known, because it sounds like a lot of visually impaired people could use that ability. Okay. So biological predispositions show the duration between controlled, conditioned stimulus and the unconditioned stimulus may be long, but yet result in conditioning. So in this case, a biologically adaptive for these mice taste led to conditioning, but other stimuli did not. In other words, it had to be a meaningful thing for mice. Otherwise, if it wasn't kind of in their world, they pretty much disregarded it. So each species has a biological predisposition. Now, what kind of predispositions do humans have? Think of some sort of behavior that humans are able to do that other animals are let's say, not.
Consciousness?
Well, consciousness, we don't know what's inside animals' head. They could be, Aristotle for all we know. What? Yeah. Yeah, obviously, I think animals that don't have that wouldn't really.
Do they sneeze?
What?
Do they sneeze?
Sing?
No, sneeze.
Sneeze. Oh, sneeze. Okay. Yeah, I think I've seen dogs sneeze. Yeah. I've never seen a sea urchin sneeze, but So I guess for the sea urchin, there would be things that, if this doesn't make any sense, Gesundheit, what, to a sea urchin, this is not going to register.
Did you, Dr. Spice, did you update these slides recently? 'Cause
Yeah.
I don't have
I know,
them.
I'm sorry.
Should be.
Yeah. If you go to the website, you can, I'll bring it up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so on Moodle, it's up there. You can bring those slides up. So, something else. A behavior that humans do. We do it all the time. We constantly do it. Talk?
Yeah.
Did I hear that? Talk? Oh my God! Yeah. So now I just, in all deference to your parrot, but we talk. Not only do we talk, but we have a predisposition for it. We have a mental template for acquiring language. So young children, of course, are very, very, very receptive to languages. In fact, you can simultaneously teach a young child, let's say 5 or 6 different languages. They're able to distinguish them. It's not like they mix and match. It's really amazing. But that, over time, that diminishes to a considerable extent. So there's this critical period. Now, it's kind of like there's an innate learning mechanism, but the right stimulus, namely listening to language, has to be there for it to be activated. So if you took a kid and stuck them in a dungeon and never talked to them, they probably wouldn't be able to acquire later on real language. Okay? So, now, there aren't other individuals, there's not other animals that can really do this. Dolphin, well, okay, so there's limited number of animals. Parrots actually appear to not only mimic words and things and sounds, but to actually understand them. I think later on I have a little slide on Alex, the parrot who died a couple of years ago, who actually showed he was able to count, do abstract thought. Pretty incredible. They've shown with dogs, they can't talk, of course, but they can understand, obviously, special words and meanings, and actually do abstract thought. So there's Border Collie, that's been, yeah.
I just wanted to add to that dogs don't understand the words. It's the facial expressions that they get from us.
Yeah, but not necessarily. Okay, so this is what some researchers did with a Border Collie. They taught them this word and this object, let's say a triangle, okay, and they also taught them different colors. Okay. Now, it turns out, in the other room, there was something that they had never seen that was exactly like that. It was a green triangle. In other words, taking green and a triangle and putting them together. All they had seen was red and blue triangles, but never green. And said, go in the other room, get a green triangle, bring it back. They did that. So I don't think it's this facial expression. And dogs do have a fairly decent sense of hearing. Okay? So, I mean, it's...
I just read it somewhere that they don't really understand like what we say. It's
Well,
facial
okay.
expressions.
How do we know that, though?
Well, whenever I tell my dog you want to go pee-pee, he runs outside to go pee, so
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Yeah. Now, you could say that, oh, there's an expression on your face to go, go outside and go pee-pee. Right? No, but you don't do that. No. Right.
He understands.
He understands. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think what she was trying to say, I think it was animals or dogs can sense the emotions based on your facial expression.
Oh, certainly they can.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you just take, it's like that running back and his kids. If you had just done the look, you can do that with a dog. They see that look and they just go, right? No. Okay, enough of that. Okay, so you understand that. Okay. Now, okay. What do birds and humans do? A lot of birds and humans do that are similar. What about, okay, we talk. What do birds do?
Same.
Okay. birds also have a critical period, if they're songbirds, for learning song. They have to learn it at the right time. They have a template that's kind of a song acquisition template, but they have to hear their father sing. That's either, the males have to learn how to hear their father sing so that they can start practicing, and the females have to do the same thing so they recognize proper song. And there's the same thing with the critical period. It has to be, I think it's like 10 to 50 days after they hatch. They have to be exposed to this. And so what they start doing is they start practicing, it's called subsong. And they get better and better and better until it's crystallized song. After that, it usually doesn't change. If birds are interrupted in that, they don't, let's say they make them deaf or they don't hear their father singing, they never learn, and then it's outside of that learning period, they never learn actually how to sing properly. So, let's see, what else? Now, there are some birds, I will say, that can continue to learn even after that critical period. You think of mockingbirds, well, they're really quite creative. They're picking sounds from all over the place and using them as part of their repertoire. There's white-crowned sparrows. They have different dialects. Okay, it was first shown up in Berkeley. There was this incredible guy that, what was his name? He was from Macau. Anyway, it'll come to me. He died, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. But when I was at Humboldt, getting my master's degree, he came and he had a dish and he loved, recording stuff all over the place. Oh, Louis Baptista. And so he had an incredible ear, absolutely incredible, and he could whistle all the different dialects. This one's from Berkeley, this one's from the Central Sierra. And he could also whistle other birds singing as well. I mean, he just had that facility. So anybody in here are you like birders, ornithologists? Yeah, a lot of people do it for fun now. And there are a lot of people, when you get better, you get good not only at recognizing a species by sight, but by sound as well. So, I've done a lot of birding, and I've trained myself, and I have to retrain myself if I haven't done it for a while, to recognize certain bird song. But I have friends that, I'm sorry, they're Mozart, okay? They have an aptitude that I just don't have. It's like someone, who in here had trouble with organic chemistry? Okay, a lot of people. It doesn't come naturally. It's pretty much, for those of you, you don't see it spatially, right? You just have to memorize different kinds of reactions. Anybody in here who did well in organic chemistry? You can, okay. Now, do you have a spatial sense of what you were seeing or not?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, what about you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, now it's hard for other people who don't have that to understand that, but they can twirl around, look for polarity, how things interact, that normal people, we just have to pretty much memorize stuff. Okay? So, yeah.
But couldn't you train yourself to be more spatially
Oh,
aware?
you can, but up to a point. It's like a musician. Some people have a higher aptitude for music or a higher aptitude for mathematics than other people. So there's different aptitudes. So you can certainly take yourself from a certain spatial, lack of spatial awareness to helping yourself. And you do that. So it turns out my spatial sense, I'm a retard. No, I am, absolutely. And I've known it all my life. I went in for a cognitive test. Not for that, just general. I can't remember shit. No. Anyway, so they have these different tests for, verbal memory, spatial, all kinds of different things. And after the test, I get a call and they say, well, we're going to have you go in for an MRI of the brain. And I said, oh, sure, no problem. I'll take a nice nap during it. I don't know, I can actually do that with that. Anyway, so the people where I'm going to do it, they call up and they said to set up a time. And then she says, so did you have a stroke? And I go, not that I know of, but a lot of people have strokes. They don't know it. They're completely unaware that they actually have strokes. Oh, it's common. They think the fact that they can't see one side, they don't realize they cannot see. So I thought, well, it's possible. So I went in, it was clear. But I told the doctors that I've always had this problem. Now, it's interesting, I can get around pretty good as far as, I don't have a mental map ability that some people have, but I'm okay. But there's certain spatial things that it just doesn't, it's like I'm blind to that entirely. Okay. So, obviously, Pavlov was starting from scratch. Other people, in their day-to-day lives, they noticed what animals could do, if you were a pet owner, all that kind of stuff. But he was really the one, well, it's interesting. Actually, Freud was a behaviorist before he was actually, went off on the wrong track with analysis. But Pavlov was the first to actually demonstrate these sorts of kind of basic behaviors in a scientifically objective framework. So, applications for classical conditioning. Crack cocaine users should avoid cues associated with previous drug use. You run into Marsha, and it's like, I just, all over the place. You just can't help it, right? But through classical conditioning, a drug plus its taste that affects the immune response may cause the taste of the drug to invoke the immune response, or you can actually condition someone to obviously not like the drug or not like alcohol. So there's a substance you take, you drink alcohol, you get nauseous. Here, I'm going to Okay. Come on.
You're here.
Yeah, I can't. Because I put it on like the side. I didn't.
Did you see
No, I was like, somebody told me like after. I was like, looking at some guy. Apparently he's I don't know. I got it back. Everything's there.
Oh, shoot.
Everything's there. No, I sort of helpless. Well, I didn't. Everything's I told him
I can't believe I'm dancing with Nazis.
Why should be happy?
Yeah.
You should be happy.
But the music, Beethoven's Ninth. Watch.
It was the next day, brothers, and I had truly done my best morning and afternoon to play it their way and sit like a horror show cooperative now chick in the chair of torture while they flashed nasty bits of ultra-violence on the screen. Though not on the soundtrack, my brothers, the only sound being music. Then I noticed in all my pain and sickness what music it was that might cracked and boomed. It was Ludwig van. Ninth Symphony, Fourth Movement.
About sin. You should not be mad like that. You did no harm to anyone. Beethoven just wrote music.
Are you referring to the background score?
Yes.
You've heard Beethoven before?
Yes. So you're keen on music? Yes.
Count Biol. Here's the punishment element perhaps. Count Hall, if you please.
I'm sorry, Alex. This is for your own good. You'll have to bear with us for a while. But it's not fair! It's not fair! I should feel ill when I hear not with bad. You must take your chance, boy. The choice has been all yours. You needn't take it any further, sir. You've proved to me that all this ultra-violence and killing is wrong and terribly wrong. I've learned my lesson, sir. I see now what I've never seen before. I'm cured. Praise God.
So that's anybody have ever seen Clockwork Orange? Okay, so you've seen it. Everybody else is a nincompoop. So it's a movie by Stanley Kubrick. Alex was head of a gang, and they enjoyed everything. They enjoyed beating up people, killing people, raping, pillaging, all that kind of stuff. And he also enjoyed music, especially his precious Ludwig van Beethoven. And so they finally caught him, and they offered him a solution. We'll condition you to not like these images anymore. So he was given a drug that was associated with nausea, and that those images would kind of induce nausea, same sort of thing. Unfortunately, they also put Ludwig Van's on the soundtrack of that, and so that was tied with nausea as well. So he gets out, by the way. He's good, but he's at the mercy of the world, and he's basically, all of a sudden, he's a basket case. And people find out about this, the press, all the people who did that to him, they all get in trouble. So the idea is we have to restore him to what he once was. So they do. They give him pictures of rapes and pillages and all that stuff that he loved before to put him back to how he imagined. Anyway, it's a farce. You guys look so serious, but it really was a farce. It was a great movie.
Dr. Beck,
Yeah.
couldn't you also manipulate, I guess, people's behavior by positive reinforcements rather than?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, there's a lot of stuff where you can condition on positive things. Absolutely. So it's not necessarily a negative stimulus that gets to a positive result. You can actually, I think, do the other way around. Do it that way. Because obviously, you can certainly make something that's already positive negative, like Ludwig van.
But positive and negative are relative to the situation. So like if you induce pain on something, well, when it stops, it becomes a positive automatically. So by making a negative, you're actually making a positive.
Well,
by,
yeah,
by
but think
getting-
about Pavlov's dog. Is the ringing of the bell painful?
No.
No. It's just a cue. In this case, it's the dog salivates, and then it's time for eating. So it doesn't have to be a negative for a positive.
But
You
when
know.
it's hungry and the bell doesn't ring, then it's a negative, right?
Well, I guess so. I don't know what goes through the dog's head. Probably like, if you don't give me a ribeye, I'm going to bite you, or something, right? I would imagine. Okay. So, operant conditioning. So, the type of learning in which behavior is actually strengthened if it's followed by reinforcement. And in fact, think about there are animals that cache food, acorns and all that kind of stuff all over the place, amazing spatial memory. And if you actually studied those animals, what they tend to do is, it's not like they go off and then they come back, let's say, months later. They usually come, they go away, they come back, make sure it's still there, kind of, and it reinforces. So this is, in this case, it's a way to, you know, get someone to behave a certain way, but this is basically the same sort of thing. So you have reinforcement, or you could diminish that behavior with punishment. I guess it was Thorndike's principle that behaviors followed by favorable consequences become more, okay, yeah. So the behavior acts on the environment, and it produces consequences. And the respondent behavior occurs as an automatic response to stimulus. And behavior learned through classical conditioning. Okay. And it's behavior, I guess, through classical conditioning, what we've learned before. Happened. Okay, so here was Skinner. Now, Skinner, he had this thing called the Skinner box. And so he could completely control the environment. He used lab rats and things like that. And he kind of developed this behavioral technology. He also actually used these boxes on his kids. I don't know whatever happened to them. So in this case, the Skinner box was, the reward was food. If they manipulated the right thing, and then it contains devices to record responses, right? So the animal associates pressing something with food or water. Okay. Okay. What is this? What is, that's what it is. Okay. It's it looks like a prairie dog or something like that. Yeah. So it's operant conditioning procedure which reinforces guide behavior towards the desired target behavior through successive approximations. A rat shape to sniff mines. Oh, that's what it is. A manatee shape to discriminate objects of different shapes, all that kind of stuff. And different kinds of reinforcement. Positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, that sort of thing. Primary innately reinforcing stimulus that satisfies a biological need. A learned reinforcer, conditioned reinforcer, the same sort of thing. Oh no, not that again. I should change that, but it's good for you to know. Immediate reinforcer versus delayed reinforcer. For the rat, like the food pellets, the reinforcer that is delayed in time for like a paycheck that comes at the end of the week. It kind of shows in a sense that we're short term. Most animals, I think, are probably short term. We don't put off things we like. We want them right away. They've done these kind of studies with kids, and if you delay, you get 2 cookies. If you eat it right away, you only get 1.
Show that the kids that were able to delay led more successful.
Oh, that's right.
Later on.
Then, so later on, it turns out they had better,
Less impulsive.
less impulsive behavior, and generally better cognitive abilities where they could actually control what they were thinking.
Did they do it immediate or delayed?
Well, I think these were kids that they were told this, and some did it and some didn't. What they did was, I think they followed these kids.
Later on,
Yeah.
it's an experiment where they allow them to choose if they could have one cookie now or 2 later, and the kids that took the 2 now, as opposed to, let me rephrase that. It had to do with if they were able to delay having cookies, they would get more cookies later, or they could have 2 or however many immediately. And then what ended up happening was when they followed them throughout life, later on, the kids that were less impulsive, that waited for later gratification, those were the ones that turned out to be more successful. As they stayed out of jail, they got jobs.
Ritalin, the Ritalin kids are the ones that didn't do so, would put up with immediate, OCD, is that what it is? But no.
That's ADHD.
What?
Ritalin?
Yeah.
ADHD.
CDHD, right. Compulsive obsessive?
ADHD.
ADHD, what does that stand for?
Attention
deficit.
Oh, that's right, attention deficit, right. So, and we all know people like that. And then Ritalin, I guess, kind of brings them down and they're able to concentrate better. I don't know. I wonder if those people might have developed some other thing besides going to jail that they're good at. I don't know. Okay. Okay, so a fixed ratio, you guys can kind of just go through this sort of stuff. Faster you respond, the more rewards you get. Oh, that was can't believe you're getting me to do this.
I was joking, but.
Yeah?
I was going to say, potty training kids would be like classical conditioning training, but with positive reinforcement,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Okay.
Yeah. They get candy for potty training and they don't. Otherwise, they have to go clean up their mess. So we use with dogs is mainly, we do negative. Or actually, we beat the hell out of them, I don't know. No, so that's right. Okay, so this again, in terms of the time of reinforcing behavior, there are certain kinds of behaviors that require very little time to get them up to where you want them to get. Fixed ratio stuff. Variable interval doesn't look like, let's see, it never gets up to whatever they wanted, but it takes longer as well. So, discriminative stimulus, this is like logos and all that kind of stuff. This is punishment for types. So, administer, withdraw, put it back on. I'm sorry.
Say everything all over again.
I guess I could. You want me to?
Yeah, please.
What? Really?
I didn't hear you. Yeah, I'm sorry. He was talking.
Okay. Okay. There may be some justification for occasional punishment. It usually leads to negative effects. That's true. But in social environments, we're very aware of, let's say, proscribed behavior that we don't want around us. And so you think of, let's say, Calvinism and the Massachusetts Bay Colony. They were very strict. You had to think a certain way, all that. If you didn't, you were shunned. And obviously being shunned was a big deal. It usually meant that, well, it probably killed you early or something. But, you know, these were all your friends, and suddenly you're out the door. But there are certain things they've been looking at reward versus punishment for a long time. And I read a study, I'll see if I can find it, where they actually found that punishment, negative things actually tend to stick with you. Now, it doesn't mean that you probably want to use a reward system if it works. But, you know, let's say rapists. You know, you don't want to give them candy for not raping, right? But if they, or domestic abuse. I mean, if you put a whooping on them every time they do that, and it gets worse, it might have an effect on their behavior. Of course, normally they get hauled in, well, sometimes they get hauled in front of the criminal justice system. And that seems to help, but that's punishment as well. Okay. Unwanted fears, yeah, you can get them totally neurotic. Actually, it does convey information to the organism. I don't know. Justifies pain in others, causes unwanted behaviors to reappear in its absence. Aggression towards the agent, yeah, you probably want to kill the guy, but you don't if it's bad enough. One on unwanted behavior, so it gets all tangled up. So he believed in inner thought processes and biological underpinnings, but many psychologists criticism for discounting them. Yeah. Oh, I think he thought actually that well, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'll have to look. So, he argued the behaviors were shaped by external influences instead of inner. That's right. Inner thoughts. So in other words, if we went back, I'm not going to go back. Inner thoughts, it was external influences that actually affect behavior. And critics argued that Skinner dehumanized people by neglecting their what's called free will. In other words, now he was a behaviorist, and one of the problems with behaviorists was they put so much on learning in the external environment. They didn't believe in genetics. They had no, they were purposely ignorant of genetics and underlying genetics, right? And they thought they could, with behavior training, they could get organisms to do what they wanted. But they could never get a dog to talk, right? They can get a dog to, recognize things and all that. But as far as with syntax and all that, they could never. So that was Noam Chomsky, a linguist, and he pretty much dashed the behaviorists, the dogmatic ones anyway. And you could see like a strange new world. If this was true, we'd all be put in Skinner boxes so that we'd have the desired outcome. This group of people are workers, this group of people are whatever. Okay. Right. So the instinctive drift is to push things. They do everything with their noses. And if it's not reinforced for actually picking up things, they'll kind of drift back to the nose thing. I have, yeah, we'll finish, but I have a friend who we hunt ducks, and he had a master retriever. So a duck is released, they shoot it, dog has to run out, come back in a certain way, and then it's all timed, right? Well, this one master, the dog said, oh, I don't have to do, that's unimportant. The main thing is bringing this back as quickly as possible. So we got points taken off for not actually, because you can actually, my friend used hand signals. This way, the dog didn't see where it was. So you had to, point them this way, that way, da-da-da. And anyway, that's enough.
Stop that way.